Welcome everyone. Sorry for the delay over here. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but I'm Tom Gerton from the MapGive team, and today we're going to go over advanced JOSM training. We're over at the office of OTI and USAID, and we have Rory right beside me. And we basically have an hour. We're going to be pretty intensive and go over many aspects of JOSM. JOSM is the advanced editor of OpenStreetMap. I would say the Java applet, so you can install it almost any system, but it does have a lot more buttons, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of the tool for power users, for people who want to go in and QA different change sets or different areas of OpenStreetMap. Lets you edit things a lot quicker. Has a lot of nifty plugins if you're specializing in a certain feature type or other type of region or area. Lets you duplicate things really well. Yeah, so it's called JOSM for a reason. It's the Java OpenStreetMap editor, and it's built in Java. That's why it's called that. And it's run on your desktop as opposed to IDE, which is in browser, as Tom mentioned. And yes, it's a really powerful tool. So I think today we'll have two basic goals: bring you up to speed on how to edit different features in JOSM, how to use the QA functionality so you can edit other people who have done changes in StreetMap. So yeah, well, at least for the USAID OTI interns, the VSFS mapping interns, we'll be using the JOSM channel in our Slack to answer any questions you have. So just park them over there, and either David, Sager, or I will be answering them. And we hope you learn a lot about this tool and are ready to become take that next step in editing OpenStreetMap. Over to you, Tom.
So we're going to test this new feature too. There's a Q&A button as well. We'll try to monitor that for any questions. I have an idea. There's a few other people in this room right now. So if you wouldn't mind, you could at least come over here to this screen to start off with and just introduce yourselves.
You can also notice that we're eating pizza, which is an important part of any OpenStreetMap editing session. Helps you edit a lot quicker and better, and you learn a lot better for this really powerful brain food.
Hi all, I'm David Sager. I'm the newest member, I think, to OTI, and I'll be sort of helping out and covering some of the sort of latter portions of this training.
Hey David, what's OTI?
Office of Transition Initiative? Yeah.
Okay. Hey all, I'm Ava. I'm also part of OTI and work with Rory and David, and I'm the second newest person, so it'll be great to listen to you guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Patrick. Before I'm with the MapGive team at the Humanitarian Information Unit in the State Department. Work with Tom a lot.
I'm Ryan. I'm an intern at the Humanitarian Information Unit with Tom as well.
Cool. So with introductions done, I think we'll go into how to start editing in JOSM. If anyone hasn't edited or hasn't downloaded successfully or haven't gotten JOSM to run on your computer, please hit us up in the chat, either in this Google Hangout or the live stream air thing, I don't know what it's called, or in Slack. So hopefully everyone has it installed. Hopefully everyone has reviewed some of the basic documentation that we've provided. But we will, I think, review a lot of that for you guys just in case. Also, hopefully everyone's familiar with OpenStreetMap, so we don't have to go too much into what a node, way, or relation is. But if you do have questions on anything, even if it's not JOSM related, if it's just OSM related, please hit us up in Slack or the air chat. Thanks. Over to you, Tom.
Okay, great. First, my go-to place is the Hot Tasking Manager. That's where I usually look for new tasks. So I will open a window here It's task.hotosm.org. At the same time, I will share my screen. So recently, Hurricane Patricia hit the west coast of Mexico. And we actually had some of the MapGive VSFS interns work on this project. And we decided this would be a decent project to start off with this JOSM training. Most everyone here is already familiar with both the Hot Tasking Manager as well as ID Editor. And if you go to the particular task, you see that there's a higher priority area that's highlighted red. And usually you'll click on a certain mapping square. You'll see new options pop up. Click on Start Mapping. Oh, I have a task that's locked. So first I need to unlock my existing square. Okay, and the default option usually is Edit with ID Editor. But you also know that there's another option that says JOSM. So if you don't have JOSM, again, we mentioned that it is a Java applet. And you could easily search for JOSM through Google. And it should pop up pretty easily.
One thing is just maybe go a little bit slower because there's a little bit of a lag with the screen sharing and stuff.
Okay, excellent. Will do. So you could see that the link is josm.openstreetmap.de. And you could just download, or you could just click the josm.jnlp link.
Okay, hey, I don't know if it's working, the Hangout. Can you check?
Sure.
Screen sharing.
Oh, am I sharing the wrong screen? Oops. Let me share my screen again. Oh, this one should work. Do you guys see the JOSM screen? Okay. Hey, David, do you have the video on? David's computer isn't even on. Way to go, David.
Okay.
Well, this right now is a perfect opportunity to, because it does take a while to boot up JOSM for the first time. So everyone tuning in could go ahead and click on the josm.jnlp link and then launch JOSM for the first time. If you could, see if the screen share, if the live. Okay, great. So once you launch JOSM, there's a very important step to take. And you would go to the JOSM top menu and then click on Preferences. And then in Preferences, there's a bunch of options to your left. And we'll scroll down, and there is configure available plugins. Oh, sorry, there's 3 options down below that. Actually, 5 options below that. Is there remote control? And you want to make sure the remote control checkbox is enabled, because this allows you to connect to the hot tasking manager and automatically center JOSM on the mapping square you have selected. So let's go back to the hot tasking manager, and I will click the edit with JOSM button. And then I believe I am in the exact same spot I want to be here. So you see here, it's the same area. That's the lake and everything. Okay, so now we will go over the basic JOSM interface. Or did you want to point out maybe just the basic buttons of JOSM?
Sure.
It's still on screen share.
Hey guys, I guess you can't see me, but you can hear my voice at least. So JOSM is a pretty basic system. It's built with Java, so it's kind of got that Java application look and feel to it, straight out of the late 90s, early 2000s. So the main screen here, of course, where my mouse is kind of going around the border, is of course our map. So since we did a hot OSM task and it opened up in our application, you'll see that the only place we were supposed to edit will be the place that doesn't have that kind of hash line marks around it. And that's really important to follow too, because that's part of another task, right? We see that grid for hot OSM on the tasking manager, and that's someone else's task. So we'll be interfering with their edits, and that's when we get one of the worst errors of all times, and David Sager can vouch for this because he spent many, many hours correcting these types of errors. You get a lot of duplicate features, so people will edit the same thing if you edit outside your box. So please color inside the lines, guys. I think we all learned about that in preschool, if not by kindergarten, hopefully. But yeah, so yeah, that's our basic interface. Then on the right, you'll see a bunch of different windows as well. Our layers window, which shows the different available layers. If you click on a feature, like a road, for example, like I just did, or excuse me, a building, we'll see the building tag in the tags window. You can see all the different tags. It might be more descriptive than that. It might have more tags than just building. Maybe it'll be something commercial or residential. But for this feature that I just clicked on, it's just a building. We can see the author, person who created, or I think pretty sure just the person who last edited it will be in the author window here. I'm not too sure what the conflict window does. Does anyone else here know what the conflict window does? Yep. Oh, sorry. I'm pausing for a second. Or have we not been seen?
Yeah, let's change this.
Technology.
This entire screen.
Whoa, I don't know if entire screen. Okay. Is this good for everyone? Can everyone see? David, are you in the Slack by any chance? All right. If this isn't good, please let us know in the Slack if this isn't a good screen to be sharing. If it doesn't look right. But just to review, in case people missed that, you can see the clear part in the center, the square here.
So you were, I don't think that the air is working. But I only see, I don't see Dawson yet. I just see Dawson. I think if you open it up.
Oh, I see it now. I see it now.
Okay.
Get the post in.
So everyone, make sure you full screen the Hangout. David, can you please make sure that people in Slack are seeing it?
Yeah, I mean,
They're complaining? What? Yeah. All right, that can't be good. So let's screen share.
I think some people are saying it too.
I think it was good just now. We did entire screen. I think it.
Yeah,
well, we could just share it. That also works as well.
Okay. Did everyone see or hear at least, or see and hear my little spiel about the JOSM and the different windows? David, can let me know what our people are saying.
So far, it's okay.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, so I'll just continue from where I left off. And also at the bottom here, you'll see different filters. This is a pretty complicated part, which we'll go into a little bit later. But basically, if you only want to be editing buildings, you can filter out the rest of the features so you only can see the buildings. Or one example that comes to mind is I was trying to draw a road and have it connect to another road, but there's this other line in the way. I think it was a telephone wire. It kept wanting to snap to that telephone wire. So I had to filter out everything that was a telephone wire so I could snap it to the adjoining road. Besides that, we have our standard file menu. Some of the other important buttons are these guys right here, which is download map data from OSM server, which it automatically did for us with choosing something from the hot server, hot tasking manager, excuse me. And over here, we have this green up arrow. Can't see my arrow. This shares.
This is delayed by a few minutes.
Okay. And so here we have the upload all changes. So when you're done, and I think roughly every 10 edits, you should upload your changes to OpenStreetMap so you can see them on the map eventually. And of course, we also have the undo button. And I think the rest are pretty self-explanatory. You just hover over them, and you can see what the button actually does. Cool. And then we'll go into this much more in a bit. But if you want to draw a node, it's the line tool over here. To pan around, you hold down the right-click button on your computer. It's important to have a mouse because it makes this a lot easier, and it lets you pan around the map pane. So even though you have maybe another tool selected and you're drawing a line, I probably won't let us do it so zoomed out. But let's say we're just drawing a random line. It still let us move around if I hold down the right-click button on the mouse. So let's say it's off screen. I want to move it further up. It helps like that.
Yeah, it's not.
It's working for other people, I think. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to Tom.
Okay, great. So as Rory was mentioning, basically, to draw a line is one of the most important things you could do in JOSM. And there is a shortcut for that. JOSM is all about shortcuts. And you could even delete roads as well. And the shortcut for selecting items, you could just hover over an icon, and chances are it will provide you a shortcut. In this case, it's S. You select this road. And you could just delete it. And that's okay because I'm not going to commit this change. So let me zoom into the road here. And let me press my shortcut for creating a line, which is A. And then you could automatically start drawing road, for instance. And I'm getting closer to the edge of the screen yet, and I don't want to end my road, so I'm going to pan, and it'll keep the line intact. I'll pan again. And there's a balance when drawing a road. You don't want to draw too many vertices, but you want to have enough vertices to keep the curvature of the road in a general sense. Also, when you approach another road, you want to make sure the vertices intersect with each other. Now, I'm just going to end the road here for demonstration purposes by double-clicking. So I have my road drawn right here. And if you notice, when I drew the road in the beginning, it basically extended an existing road I had. So it went and took the existing attributes. Now there's a very important window panel on the right-hand section of your screen. And this has many different windows that could assist you while editing. The one I want to highlight here is called the tags menu. And you could see that there's a key and a value. So right now you see the key is highway and the value is tertiary/link. Now I'm going to add a new tag by clicking the add button. And it even gives you recently added tags. I'm going to hit surface, and even auto-completes, and then you could select the value. It pre-populates some options, or you could start typing away. And I'll just make it paved. And then click OK. And then you have your second tag here. Oops, I drew accidentally another road here. I can delete this here. So we'll go to a little bit more advanced road editing functions a little bit later. But now let's just jump straight into buildings. Let's zoom out a little bit and see what else we have in our map here. Seems like there's some buildings over here. We'll wait for the imagery to load. And let's highlight a group of buildings here. And you see when you do drag a window to select multiple objects, sometimes you hit all the nodes and the lines, but other times you select certain vertices, but not the actual line parts. So let's just try deleting it and see what happens. There's still two more buildings I have to select, as well as sort of like a separate vertex, which I have to select. So just be aware that it only deletes what you actually click on. If you select 3 vertices out of 4, it'll still leave 1 vertex behind. So I'll go back to A to draw away. And I'll start drawing a building here. And I'll end up by double clicking on the node I started off with. And I drew this building pretty well, but there's another shortcut you could use if your angles are not straight. If you go to the top menu, you could click on Tools. And let's see. Q is a shortcut for orthogonalized shape. How do you say that? Orthogonalized, yes. Back to geometry days. And you barely noticed, but it went and straightened out my building here. So I'll select it by clicking on the edge again, and then clicking Add to add a tag. And for building, it's pretty much building as the key, and yes as the value.
I think an ID editor or orthogonalize is just S this way.
Yes.
Q, right? So
yeah.
Same thing. But
it's a different keystroke.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
good to know. Good to know. Okay.
You don't need a new JOSM though.
Gotcha. Now I'll draw a second building here. press Q, and I will click Add again. And the building tag already pre-populates, so I don't have to type in the same key and value again. So now we want to go over some plugins. JOSM basically enables extra functionality, and people have sort of expanded and added extensions called plugins. So if we go to the top menu and go to JOSM and then Preferences, we'll go back to the Plugins tab. And there's a whole bunch of plugins here. I'm just going to go over a few. We'll see which ones I already have added, and you could check them accordingly. We have the Buildings tools, which really helps specifically on drawing buildings. The other important ones I want to highlight is, okay, I know it's called Util. I know it's somewhere here. There it is. It's called Utils Plugin 2. And that has several shortcuts that make editing easier. And if you have trouble finding it, you could just go to search and start typing it in. And it should populate with relevant matches here. So when you add it, chances are JOSM will want to restart itself and update itself. I already have them installed, so I'll just keep on moving along. But those following could go and add the plugins. So when you added the building plugin to the left here, you see basically a shortcut called Draw Buildings. Shortcut is also B. So let's press that and see what happens. I basically draw 2 points, and then I could expand the building, and it just draws the building in 3 clicks essentially. So let's do that again. Another thing about the building tool is that let's select the edge here and see the different properties, and it automatically has a key of building and value of yes, which is great. Now let's say that you had a building and essentially want to copy it. Well, if it's selected, you should basically be able to just press Control-C or in Mac's Apple-C, and then Control-V or Apple-V to copy and paste it. And of course, it's a match in this particular section, but you could imagine certain buildings being of the same size and shape and wanting to copy and paste them. Also, for instance, if you have another building and let me draw a manual building here. And it starts off without any tags. Now this is a feature.
Can we just pause for 1 second? I think
Sure.
some of our interns are trying to find the plugins tab.
Okay, great.
Just let them catch up a little bit.
Excellent.
Give people a chance to breathe. Okay, yeah, some people have to go to the download list once they're in the plugins area.
Okay, so maybe when they first installed JOSM, they would maybe have to click the download list initially to get even the available plugins. And then they could see the available plugins. I will take this opportunity to scope out the imagery, see any good places to map.
Do you think you could review how to automatically connect to the hot OSM task?
Sure thing. So you want to make sure the remote control function is on. So go to JOSM and then go to Preferences. And then you click on the button that says Settings for the Remote Control feature. And you want to make sure that Enable Remote Control is checked. And click OK. And also make sure that JOSM is up and running. And then when you go to the Hot Tasking Manager, you click on a mapping square. And then you should see the button that says Start Mapping. And then you'll see the available editors. And you'll make sure JOSM is selected. And then you'll click that button. And then you'll go back to your JOSM application. And if everything worked right, you should see your mapping area that corresponds with the mapping square on the Hot Tasking Manager. Okay. So I'm going to go back to this road intersection here and just talk a little bit more about roads. Just because I feel like there's some more points to hit on. If you see this intersection, this sort of interesting intersection, which has two different side arms over here. And when I first drew the road, I basically extended one of the merge lanes. But it's actually two different parts of the road. Let me go back, let me go up to the Tools menu. And you see if I click on an actual vertex here, that there's a splitway option called P. And if I click that, it actually splits the way where I clicked on the vertex here, which is good. That's what I want.
Do we see that one more time, Tom?
Sure. And another shortcut is if you actually press Control-Z or Command-Z, it's an undo function. So I'm going to do that. And you see that the road is actually one road again. So I'm going to click right on the vertex where I want to split the way. And then I'll go to Tools and go to Split Way here. And now you see that there's two separate roads. And what I want to do now is I want to extend this road further east. So I'm just going to press the A button again, which is a shortcut to keep on drawing nodes. Oops. I messed up. I'm going to press escape. S for select, delete this vertex. Select this road again. I think I have to draw my first line with this other line started. Okay, so I ended up drawing a new road, not extending the old one. So I guess I have a new problem now. And what I really want to do now is merge these two roads.
How do we merge those two roads, Tom?
Good question. If you press Shift, you could select multiple features. So hold down Shift here. Both of them are selected. Let me go back to my Tools menu. Do you see anything that might fit?
I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't create a circle.
Combine way, maybe?
Oh yeah, definitely combine ways, because
Okay.
ways are two lines.
Yes. Let me click away and click this again, and that worked.
Wait, can I see that one more time?
Sure, let me do Control Z to undo. And holding down Shift, I'll click both of these roads. I'm just going to hit C, my shortcut.
And now it's one line?
Yeah, let me click away and then reselect the road.
Beautiful.
It's one line.
Is that a best practice to make sure that one continuous road is just one way?
Definitely, unless if their attributes are different. Like if there's a road that's paved and then it turns to an unpaved road, then you'd want two different way segments.
Cool.
But you see where my mouse is right now, it's not actually close to the center line of the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to drag the vertices and adjust it a little bit.
So when you're digitizing the center of a road, you'd want to, or when you're digitizing a road, you'd want to do the center of the road?
Yes.
As best you can.
As best you can. Maybe I'm going a little bit too detailed now. So while I'm also here, let's say you wanted to unglue these ways.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shortcut for that. I'm going to select this vertex here and go to my Tools menu. And then I will go to Unglue Ways here.
So that would detach them, basically?
Exactly. Now I'm going to select this vertex and move it away, and it detaches itself.
And that's just an example. That's not what you should do in this situation, right?
Exactly. I'm going to do undo twice, and now I'm going to drag that same vertex and see what the difference is. It's still glued to the original road.
Gotcha.
But this intersection seems pretty well done right now.
Cool.
So I think that for buildings, I was in the middle of copying the tag.
So why would I want to copy a tag?
Just to be more efficient. If you drew many buildings and they all had maybe 3 attributes each, like usually it's simple. Usually we deal with key, building, value, yes. But there could be an advanced task that has a different roof type you want to collect, or maybe a certain type of building name that gets applied to all the buildings in a certain complex. So you could just select one building that has the right tags that you want to apply to the other buildings and just copy the tags really quick.
Cool. And just as an interesting side note, to show kind of the use of adding data to OpenStreetMap, a group of people have used OpenStreetMap data and specifically the data on rooftop types to determine the level of development of villages in Africa, to determine whether they should go in and do micro loans to that village. The reason being, if it's just thatch roof, kind of from grass, they haven't reached a level of development sufficient enough to warrant microloans. But if they had metallic roofs, then they were at that level where they could go in. So the data is valuable for these larger research projects that people do. What are we doing now?
Well, my original plan was to select this building and copy the tags to the other buildings I just drew.
Okay.
But I don't need to do that anymore because I used the building tool and that already pre-populated it.
The building tool is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. Make sure you have the building tool as a plugin because it makes your life so much easier. But
let's, do you have any other building tags we could add, for instance?
Well, maybe we know that it's a house as opposed to something commercial or something. Is there a way to tag that?
Yes. Let's see. Is name a tag? We could say like, or why don't you come up with some good tags, Rory, and we could add them a little bit later. Right now, I'd like to jump a little bit ahead because you see that we have. I tried to draw a complex building here, where you have a building with many different parts, and there's actually a shortcut which you could do. I'm going to hold down Shift again and select 3 buildings here and go back to my tools menu. And let's try to do join overlapping areas, Shift J. And it just went and basically combined all the different areas. So this would be an alternative way of drawing, a nice complex building type. So another thing that's interesting, it may not be prevalent in this area of the world, but in some areas of the world, there's circular huts or circular buildings, and even when you go to roads, there's sometimes roundabouts which are circular. So there's at least 2 ways of doing this. I know. Here's one way. I'm going to go back to draw nodes. And I'm going to start off drawing just a line, double clicking at the end here. And then I will go back to tools and do create circle. And I'll draw a circle for me. And this, you could add as a regular building if it was a building as well. So we're doing a good job just going over all these shortcuts here. We went over combine roads, unglue ways, create circle, how to split lines. Something else to go over is basically how to prevent roads from snapping into each other. So let me zoom out a little bit. So you'll mainly find this issue in high dense areas. It's easy to illustrate, but I'll just draw a random road here just to illustrate. If I go and move my mouse close enough to an existing road, it'll automatically connect to it, even if it's not directly on top of it. But if you hold down the control button, it won't do that anymore. So if you're really trying to precisely draw a road that's parallel, very close to the existing road, but you don't want it to actually snap or connect to it, you would just hold down the control button and you could sort of keep on drawing very close to it and away from it, for instance.
Is there some type of balance between the number of specificity with a feature and like how detailed I should be, basically? Like how many different nodes there are in a way?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good point to bring up. You basically don't want to keep on drawing too many points that are close to each other. Because it's sort of just like needless, you know, just it takes more time.
For no reason, especially with roads, that becomes like really important. If you have a straight road, you don't need to keep adding nodes because it makes the database bigger than it needs to be. You just put nodes.
And the database is already pretty big, right? It's like big. 40 gigabytes or something. And with all the work, you know, we're assigning to the interns, you know, probably another 5 gigabytes by the end of the year. But at the same time, you don't want to just be like, oh, I'm done, you know, oh, I'm done here.
That doesn't help either.
Yeah, you don't want just like a straight line. But I would say if you have a long stretch of straight road, then you could definitely use less vertices for that part. Whereas you're digitizing a road and it has like a very high curvature to it, then you would need more vertices in that segment to represent the curve more.
Should we move on to?
Exactly. Sorry guys, I added a few more minutes because we started a few minutes late, but I don't want to forget our grand finale.
Yes.
David with the most important part of it all, as everything, it's validation. How to check your work. Dun dun dun.
Take over. You mind if I take over?
You could take over.
Cool. Hey guys. Hi, David Sager again. So I'm going to be covering a little bit about validation, and apologize if I have to step off and ask questions. I'm not a Mac person, so all this is very unfamiliar to me, but I'm going to do my best. And validation is basically how you go from orange to green in the tasking manager. If you look in your browser at the tasking manager, you'll notice that there's a grid of squares. Let me see if I can get there. There's a grid of squares.
You're not sharing the screen, though.
Oh, I'm not?
Yeah. So let's go back to the... and this switches between...
So to share the screen would be...
Share screen.
Oh my God. This one. Okay. So if you...
Let's give them a sec to make sure that...
Yeah, sure. So if you can all sort of see the tasking manager, I don't know if I'm sharing my screen. I hope I am. Can you check on that?
Yeah, not yet. Give them a sec.
Sure.
There's a bit of a delay.
Can you see my screen?
I'm trying to say bandwidth.
Okay. So if you, or if you just want to look at your own browser, to be honest, if you look at the task, everything's split into a grid. We went over this a little bit before, and that's to make sure people don't edit over themselves. Some of the squares on the grid will be yellow. Some of them will be blank. Some of them will be green. And that's basically the way the tasking manager works, and the way that they sort of ensure some kind of level of sort of meta processing on top of the thing and make sure the data is like fairly good, is that they take 2 swipes at it. So somebody will go in, check out a grid like you've all done, start editing, and when they're done with that grid, they'll mark it as done, but it won't go to green just yet. It'll take somebody else to go check out that square again and validate it. So the validation aspect of it means that they're going through looking for not just ensuring that all the data, all the houses are on there, all the roads are put on there, but that like there's no errors. So like the road's not going through the middle of a house because nobody wants to drive into a house. And to make sure that the OSM has been sort of edited properly. So I'm going to go over some of the tools in JOSM, and this is like one of the places where JOSM really excels, is in the sort of added functionality, and specifically the functionality for doing validation. It's great for that, and most people who do validation do it in JOSM for that reason. So let me go back. So now I need to like switch to a different screen. Yep. Okay.
So we are on this one. And maybe we should click here. No, let's do stop. And back to share screen.
Okay. Okay. I'll give it another second to make sure everybody's seeing what I'm seeing. So just while I'm waiting, if you all look at your own screen in JOSM, some of you might have a validation window on the right-hand side of the screen. Some of you might not. If you don't, just go to Window and check on validation. While you're at it, check on authors as well. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move over to a place where there's a lot of buildings and a lot to be validated. And when I do validation, I like to turn off the imagery. I don't think it helps very much. That's helpful for knowing where a building is, but if you're really just looking at whether the OSM is sort of edited properly, it can kind of be a bit of a distraction. So I'll go over to layers and turn off the imagery so it's just like a black background. It just makes it kind of easier. Yeah, so let's get to validating. If you go, if you've turned on the validation window, you should see a button, this one with a check mark. It's a validation. You just click it, and it'll go through all the OSM that you've downloaded and check for a bunch of different things.
Would you say they're pretty like common errors, or? Yeah,
very common errors. It'll look for, so it'll bring up warnings and then errors. We didn't pull any errors. Whoever edited this OSM, they might have already gone through it with a validator and sort of like cleaned up all the mistakes. But the big blatant errors that you sometimes might see would be like 2 buildings on top of each other, or like I said before, a road going through a building, or a stream going through a building, or 2 buildings on top of each other. That happens often.
Hey, David, can we just do that real quick, just so we can
Sure.
them?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm not gonna save any of these edits, and please don't feel like you have to go ahead and
do this.
I'm just gonna do something that I shouldn't do, which is draw a building on top of another building. Ooh. My bad. All right, let me try that again. So here is a list, a whole slew of, it's like an apartment building. There's a whole bunch of buildings, and I'm just going to plunk down one huge building on top of it. And if I were to do validation over again, it should.
I don't have to save it.
Oh, I think you need to actually upload the OSM. So it's not going to throw a warning unless it's like in the OSM database, which I'm not going to do. But trust me, if that was in the OSM database, it would be throwing an error, and it would warn you that you should do something about this. A lot of the errors can be fixed automatically by just right-clicking on the error, and then it gives you an option to just fix automatically, and then you do that. It'll save you some time. If not, you need to go sort of warning by warning, and then and fix them. So that's it. Okay. So if you look at the validation results, you'll see a number of different issues, a number of different warnings. And the warnings, just to add, like, it's not going to prevent you from uploading your change set. It's not going to prevent you from uploading stuff you can upload stuff to the OSM database with the errors or with the warnings, but it's not good practice. And if what we're doing is validation, then you should try to address them. Some of them aren't really that big of a deal, and some of them are just warnings, and they're perfectly fine. Some things will throw a warning even if they should be in the OSM database. So you kind of like have to. It's actually a really good way to learn about OSM by going through this process.
So what you're saying is there are some, even though it's a warning, it might be valid.
It might be a valid, yeah. It might throw a warning, but it might be a valid use of OSM
in that certain specific case.
Yeah.
So you should still investigate it and make sure that it's valid.
Yeah. So it'll throw a warning every time there's overlapping ways, but often in real life there are overlapping ways. Like if you have a what'll often happen is somebody draws a street and then there's a stream going through it, and what they should really do is maybe draw a bridge going over that street, and if there's no bridge, then it'll throw a warning. But
it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. So some of the, just to read them off, some of the warnings here are highway linked, not linked to an adequate highway link. So if you wanted to sort of investigate, I don't actually have no idea what that means. but one way to sort of investigate that is to right click on it and zoom to the problem. And then it might help to turn on the imagery. So highway link not linked to an adequate highway, or highway link is not linked to an adequate highway link. I'm gonna move on to another warning. I don't know what that means.
I'll research it.
Rory's gonna research that. But crossing buildings is a much more straightforward warning. So let's zoom to that one. So these two buildings are crossing over each other in real life. That should maybe be one building. It looks like in this case they just, and you'll see this a lot. People are drawing, maybe they're editing an ID and they're editing two buildings really close to each other, and if you do that and you're not careful, sometimes it'll join those two together without you wanting to. So I don't know if so one way to fix that is by deleting one of the buildings and redrawing it. Another easier way is to just select them all and go to more tools. To select them, go to more tools and add nodes at intersections. Hold on. I think we just want to select that particular one. Go to more tools and add nodes at intersections, and it should. And if you revalidate, it'll have fixed that particular one. There's a way to select all of those. And then go to more tools, add nodes at intersections. Zoom to that problem. The intersections, and it should clear that up for you. Unnamed ways, you'll see that a lot, especially when you have folks who are remote mapping. They don't know the name of the street. I don't know the name of the street. You don't know the name of the street. So they don't name the street. That'll throw a warning. Are we ever going to know the name of the street? I mean, that's one of the warnings that probably often aren't going to get fixed when you do change set. I wouldn't worry too much about.
Can you just review why we would add nodes at intersections, like why that's the best practice?
Sure. So so not every intersection is going to put a node, but like when you're talking about buildings, like these are clearly two separate buildings, but they're drawn as if they're conjoined. And so you want to put a way here so that they're two complete separate polygons. If it was just like one, I don't know if that's conveying exactly what. Yeah.
So maybe we have like in this example, we have two buildings which border each other and probably share the same wall.
Yeah.
But we still need to make sure that they're counted as two separate polygons. So this way, by adding separate nodes at the intersections, it's counted as two separate buildings.
Yeah, and like if you look at the if you look just at the imagery, and I'm gonna turn off the errors, like you can see how it would be hard to distinguish these two buildings. And I mean that's often the case when you're remote mapping. You'll have maybe digital globe imagery that's at, I don't know, 0.5 meter, 0.3 meters, and it's just like really hard to differentiate when there's two buildings really close to each other, or it's just an error that'll come up when people are editing two lines that are really close together, and it'll just join those two lines and draw it as one complete way when it should be two separate polygons. But the more tools add nodes at intersection is like really helpful for sort of for adding nodes where they should be and splitting the two buildings into separate buildings. And to get the add nodes at intersection, you need to download a separate plugin. I forget the name of it. Do you know?
Maybe is it maybe the utils too?
Utils, yeah. Utils 2?
Yeah. Utils
2 plugin, but you would download that the same way that you would the buildings plugin. So like that's the basic. That's how to use the basic functionality of the validation tool. The rest of it really comes down to sort of like knowing what the different sort of errors are and the warnings. One other thing that I'll go over really briefly, because I know we're like pushing it and we're over time a bit.
Because they did, like usually when you commit it, it'll give you warnings, right?
Yeah, when you go to commit your changes, it'll warn you that you have warnings, but it won't prevent you.
Even if you never use the validation tool, it'll still give you warnings.
Yeah.
So for me, like personally, that's sort of like the cue to just be like, oh, maybe I could use the validation tool, really like drill down on these warnings. That's
true. But I mean, the other side of that is it always gives me warnings. Like even if I've used the validation tool, because typically I haven't cleaned up every single validation error. Like specifically, especially the unnamed ways, right? Like I'm not gonna go through and name every way. There's no way that I can do that. So I'll usually, when I submit my change set, whether I've used the validation tool or not, it'll still throw a warning, just telling me that there are issues. But it is a good reminder though, to be like, hey, I haven't done validation yet. Let me go back and do that. So one other thing, and this is like maybe I've had to use this a lot, and I found it really helpful for validation, but it's kind of specific to when you've had people who, and you'll see this a lot actually, who aren't maybe using the tasking manager. They're just editing straight to OSM, or they're editing really close to the boundary of two different grids, squares, in the tasking manager, and they end up editing over each other a bunch. or potentially there was, and this is what happened to us, we had a big mapping party with a lot of editors, so many in fact that the OSM servers thought that it was a denial of service attack, and there were a bunch of technical glitches coming up. So people ended up just not seeing other people, being able to see other people's edits and sort of like mapping over each other like multiple times. So there was like five buildings on top of each other. This is like a really easy way to clear up some of those issues, where you just go, let's say this was the, I mean, this isn't the case right here, but I mean, let's say there was a bunch of buildings on top of each other here. And I wanted to figure out, and it didn't need to be buildings, just anything. There's a bunch of overlapping things, and I wanted to, or someone in particular was just a very poor at editing, and you wanted to remove their edits, particularly when there was like a lot of people editing in the same space. You can just highlight all the features, edited, and then if you go to the authors menu, it'll tell you all the different people who are within your selection that have edited. So let's say Harry Wood. I've seen Harry Wood before. That guy's a serious OSM editor. That's incredible. Okay, so Harry Wood is just terrible. Oh, Harry, why? He's not. He's pretty good, but then you could just double click on Harry Wood, and it'll just highlight.
What about that T. Griffin?
T. Gurn's all right. He's all right. You double click on the Harry Wood, and it'll just highlight his features. And if I wanted to, I'll just do it because I'm not going to submit these changes. Boom! I can delete those somehow. I don't know how to use that. Well, there's a way to delete those.
FN.
What?
FN.
Delete?
Plus delete.
Plus delete? What? Okay. So Harry Wood's edits are gone within my selection, and that's it's kind of a nifty thing to help with your validation sometimes. Was there a portion of that that was like unclear that you want me to go over again? I'll hold for a response.
Let's say you do notice someone who does a lot of edits in maybe the region you're focusing on, or yeah. Is there a way to possibly reach out to them, to contact them and be like, hey, is there a way I can help you edit things that are important for people on the ground here?
Yeah, that's a good, yeah, yes, there is. Everybody, you can, so like using the authors tool, let's say Alarobic was just doing a really poor job and you wanted to reach out to them to sort of like do outreach and be like, hey guy, you know, what were you thinking? You should probably do it in a really nice way. I've done this before where people were just like obviously not sort of putting much thought into how they were editing, were doing a really sloppy job, and I've just reached out and been like, hey, you know, I just wanted to sort of like reach out and see sort of what your motivations were in doing OSM editing and where your mindset was when you're doing this edit in this particular place. And they got back to me and we had like a really useful conversation, and it was like really nice. I learned a lot. But you, through just OpenStreetMap's website, you can take their username and search them up and email them and message them that way. I can step you through how to do that, but I don't know how to navigate through Windows.
So we will go here. And we got to figure out how to... Yeah.
Okay.
So let's find... There was a delay, so it's okay. So use this screen.
Okay. So, yeah, okay. So you can do this through OpenStreetMap. Just go to openstreetmap.org.
Let's give them a sec to let this load.
Sure. Do you remember? Actually, I'm kind of forgetting. I think that they changed the interface somewhat. Forgetting how to.
They probably did. They came down. They wouldn't even tell anybody about it.
Yeah. Urgh. So Tom's going to come in and walk you through that. I'm totally forgetting how to email somebody right now.
Basically,
Just to find somebody's username and then email them, message them.
okay. Do you know what your username is? Do you have it memorized?
Capital D, capital S, A-E-G-E-R.
Capital D, capital S.
A-E-G-E-R.
A-E-G-E-R.
Ah.
So just go to www.openstreetmap.org/user/ username you're looking for.
Yeah, not D. Sager, but whichever one you're looking for. Or your own
114 edits. Pretty impressive.
Tom's making fun of me right now. But those are good edits.
Quality over quantity.
Quality over quantity. Or you go to your own username, really, is what you do, and then go to send message. And then just subject, body. Oh no, yeah, you would go to the username of the person you want to message. Yeah, and I think that's
Pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. If there's any,
I think this could lead to like a future more advanced things in the future.
Yeah, we'll definitely host probably another
This is
one.
a good start. Yeah.
Yeah, and if there were sort of like areas that you think we should cover more of, or something that you just had that you struggled with at any point, you can reach out to us through Slack, and we can do sort of like one-on-one. I'm happy to do like a one-on-one thing with you. But yeah, let us know.
Yeah, we just want to thank you guys for joining us. You guys do a lot of great work. I know. From the MapGift team, I deal with a lot of interns, and they're just doing a bunch of work, responding to Hurricane Patricia, and then the earthquake in Afghanistan, and a lot of the hashtags are being recorded, and a lot of the work I think is really making a difference. So
yeah,
just keep up the great work. Really impressive work so far.
Yeah, and I think recently there's been a State Department cable on OpenStreetMap and trying to encourage embassies around the world to incorporate using MapGive and OpenStreetMap more and having edit-thons around the world, which is really great. From the USAID side, we've reached out to our country teams to try to incorporate you guys a lot more into our programming there. And yeah, we're excited to have you. Thanks for bearing with us. This is our first time ever doing something like this remotely. Of course, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and especially when tech and internet and Wi-Fi is related. So thanks for bearing with us once again. And hopefully you learned a little bit. Even if it's just one thing, it's a win. And spread the word. And yeah, like David said, we'll work with you to get better at whatever you guys need to get better at. Cool. All right, air high five. Everyone, please do this. Boom. All right. Sign off. Good night, guys.
Night.